First Contact and False Assumptions. Ambassador Trilix stood before the Galactic Council's crystalline podium, his iridescent scales reflecting the chamber's soft light as he delivered what he believed would be the most amusing report of his career. The council chamber, with its soaring architecture designed to accommodate species of all sizes, hummed with barely contained laughter. "Esteemed members of the council," he began, mandibles clicking in amusement, "I present our latest discovery, a species that calls themselves humans. They evolved on what we would classify as a Class 12 deathworld, yet somehow achieved spaceflight using chemical propulsion." Scattered chuckles echoed through the chamber. High Councillor Vezra, her luminescent form pulsing with interest, leaned forward. "A Class 12 world? Surely they must be primitive brutes, Ambassador." "Quite the contrary, High Councillor. They appear remarkably civilized, despite their origins. Their representative, Ambassador Neelarkane, displays an almost shocking level of diplomacy. Though I must note, they have this unsettling habit of showing their teeth as a sign of friendliness." The chamber erupted in trills of laughter. Only General Kaksov, the Council's military advisor, maintained his stoic demeanor, his compound eyes fixed on the holographic display of Earth's military capabilities. "They've fought multiple planetary wars," he noted, his crystalline voice cutting through the mirth. "Their weapons, while primitive, show remarkable innovation." "Come now, General." High Councillor Vezra's dismissive waves sent ripples of light through her form. "A species that requires 8 hours of unconsciousness daily. That can be killed by minimal radiation. They're barely more than clever animals." The Council proceeded to draft what they considered generous terms for Earth's integration into galactic society. Restricted trade routes, limited technology sharing, and designated colony worlds, all carefully chosen to keep humanity safely contained. Ambassador Kane accepted every restriction with that peculiar teeth-baring expression humans called a smile. "We're just happy to join the galactic community," she said, her voice carrying an undertone that only General Kaksov seemed to notice. Over the following months, human ships, outdated by Council standards, began plying their assigned trade routes. They accepted the harsh mining colonies they were given, worlds that other species considered nearly uninhabitable. They volunteered for the most dangerous jobs, worked in the most extreme conditions, and never complained. "They're adapting too well," General Kaksov reported during a closed session. "The gravity on their mining colonies is 1.5 times Earth standard, yet productivity increases monthly. Their accident rates are declining in environments that should be lethal." High Councillor Vezra dismissed his concerns. "They're simply learning their place, General. Look how eagerly they accept our guidance." But in his private quarters, General Kaksov reviewed the surveillance feeds from human stations. He watched them build, adapt, and improve everything they touched. He saw their primitive ships returning from runs through asteroid fields that would challenge even advanced navigational systems. He noticed how their limited technology seemed to work better than it should. The final report of that year came from a junior xenobiologist. Human tissue samples show accelerated adaptation to environmental stressors. Their muscles' density increases under high gravity, their bones strengthen, their neural pathways optimize for survival. They're not just surviving our harsh conditions, they're treating them as training grounds. The report was filed away, lost in the Council's vast bureaucracy. The humans continued to smile, continued to help, continued to build. And in their new colonies, in stations across restricted space, they waited. Only General Kaksov understood what the Council had failed to grasp. They hadn't contained humanity. They'd given them exactly what they needed, time and space to grow stronger, to adapt, to prepare. But for what? The answer would come sooner than anyone expected, and it would change the galaxy forever. The silk and steel strategy. Trade Minister Vixtel couldn't understand why her crystalline appendages kept vibrating with unease every time she visited the human trading hub on Nexus Station. The humans had transformed their assigned sector into something remarkable, yet unsettling. Where other species required elaborate environmental controls, the humans worked in conditions that would kill most sentient beings. Fascinating improvements to the thermal regulation systems, she noted to station director James Harrison, trying to ignore how he moved with unusual grace despite the station's failing gravity generators. Just simple efficiency adjustments, Harrison replied, that ever present human smile, never wavering. We've learned to make do with less. The Zexathari Empire, particularly their ambitious Supreme Commander Daxler, saw humanity's apparent contentment with inferior technology as proof of their subjugation. They began pushing boundaries, accidentally straying into human trading routes, conducting routine inspections that lasted weeks. But where other species would protest, humans simply adapted. Their ships began traveling in seemingly random patterns that somehow always avoided Zexthari patrols. Their cargo manifests became increasingly complex, filled with items that appeared worthless until examined in specific combinations. Dr. Rena Walsh, head of Human Diplomatic Relations, spent countless hours in council meetings, always agreeable, always helpful. She established cultural exchange programs, medical collaborations, and trade partnerships. The Galactic Council praised humanity's integration into galactic society. Only Admiral Crixon of the Mendari Defense Force noticed the pattern. "They're mapping our responses," she reported to her superiors. "Every incident, every interaction. They're building a comprehensive understanding of how every species thinks and reacts." Her warnings went unheeded. After all, how dangerous could a species be when they willingly shared their medical knowledge, helping cure diseases across the galaxy? When they volunteered their strongest workers for the most dangerous salvage operations? When they readily admitted their technological disadvantages? The trading hub on Nexus Station became a focal point for human activity. Species from across the galaxy came to trade with humans, drawn by their reliability and innovative solutions to common problems. Few noticed how these solutions often require human maintenance, human expertise, human presence. They're establishing themselves as essential, Admiral Crixon observed. Every station, every colony, every major installation has human personnel in critical positions. The Zexathari Empire watched humanity's growing influence with mounting concern. Supreme Commander Daxler began pushing for stricter controls, more restrictions, harsher penalties for perceived violations. Then came the incident at Outpost 7. A Zexthari patrol seized a human merchant vessel, claiming it carried restricted technology. The humans filed a polite protest, accepted the Council's lukewarm response, and continued their business. 2 weeks later, every Zexthari ship that had participated in the seizure experienced catastrophic system failures. Their own safety protocols, perfectly executed, trapped their crews in supposedly protective stasis, while the ships drifted into a nearby asteroid field. A tragic accident, Dr. Walsh expressed in the Emergency Council session. Perhaps we could offer our expertise in improving their safety systems. The Zexthari representatives bristled at the offer, but could prove nothing. The systems had performed exactly as designed, too perfectly, some might say. Supreme Commander Daxler saw the incident for what it was, a warning. But instead of heeding it, He began planning a response that would prove to be the Zexthari Empire's greatest mistake. In their private chambers, human representatives continued their work, their smiles never wavering. They attended council meetings, accepted restrictions, offered help, and waited. They had learned long ago on their harsh homeworld that patience was also a weapon, and they had become very, very patient. Breaking point. The Zexthari attack on the human colony of Nova Terra came without warning. Supreme Commander Daxler had chosen the target carefully, a seemingly vulnerable outpost on the edge of human space. The assault force consisted of 30 warships, enough to overwhelm any civilian settlement. What they found instead was silence. No defense fleet, Captain Rickstall reported, her scales shifting uneasily. No orbital stations, no visible weapons platforms, just mining facilities and habitation domes. The first wave of dropships encountered no resistance. They landed amid the colony's sprawling industrial complexes, where environmental sensors showed humans working despite the planet's crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere. Commander Daxler watched from orbit as his troops secured the colony's major facilities. Too easy, he thought. Where was the panic? The chaos. The humans simply stopped their work, raised their hands, and waited. Then the ground opened up. Not in the dramatic explosion of hidden weapons, but in the precise activation of thousands of maintenance hatches, mining shafts, and ventilation systems. From these openings emerged what the Zexthari would later describe as living nightmares, humans in powered armor that made them look like ancient war gods. The colonists, those seemingly helpless miners and technicians, moved with practiced precision. Their primitive industrial equipment transformed into weapons platforms. Those supposedly simple maintenance bots revealed military-grade shield generators. Impossible. Daxler breathed as he watched his ground forces being systematically dismantled. Their technology level, we monitored their development, they couldn't have. The transmission that cut through their command frequencies carried Ambassador Kane's familiar voice, though now stripped of its diplomatic warmth. Supreme Commander Daxler, you seem surprised. Did you truly believe we showed you everything? That we'd leave our people defenseless? The Zexthari fleet attempted to bombard the surface, only to discover their targeting systems compromised. Those inefficient human mining operations had hollowed out vast underground complexes, turning the entire colony into a fortress. Your ship's security protocols were written with our help, King continued. Your navigation systems maintained by our technicians. Your command codes verified through our communication relays. We didn't just adapt to your restrictions, we built them. The Human Response Fleet emerged from FTL not in the scattered formation of civilian ships pressed into military service, but in perfect battle alignment. Their vessels, previously dismissed as outdated, shed their civilian facades to reveal weapons that shouldn't have existed. We tried to be good neighbors, Kane's transmission continued. We shared our medical knowledge, helped your colonies, traded fairly. We smiled and nodded at your contempt, while building something you never imagined. A defense network spanning the entire galaxy, hidden in plain sight in every system you forced us to help develop. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, the mighty Zexthari assault fleet hung motionless in space, their systems locked down by their own safety protocols, protocols that humans had helped design. In the council chamber, Dr. Walsh stood before the hastily assembled emergency session. Gone was the perpetual smile, replaced by an expression that made even the most ancient species remember what it felt like to be prey. We could have conquered you a dozen times over, she stated calmly. Instead, we chose to help, to trade, to coexist. Remember that when you consider your next moves, humanity's patience is vast, but not infinite. The message was clear. The Deathworlders had revealed their true nature. They hadn't been contained, they had been containing themselves. And now, with the Zexthari Empire's aggression, that self-imposed containment was coming to an end. The Cold Fury, the next 72 hours, reshaped galactic politics forever. Human ships emerged throughout controlled space, not as aggressors, but as a revelation. Each vessel shed its civilian disguise, revealing military capabilities that had been hidden in plain sight for years. Admiral Marcus Sterling of the newly unveiled Terran Defense Fleet addressed the Galactic Council. For every restriction you placed on us, we built a countermeasure. For every world you thought too harsh for colonization, we created a fortress. You gave us your worst, thinking to contain us. Instead, you gave us training grounds. The humans' response to the Zexthari attack was precisely calculated. They didn't seek revenge, they enacted consequences. Their ships appeared simultaneously at every major Zexthari military installation, using access codes gained through years of maintenance work to lock down weapons systems and communication arrays. Commander Jenna Blackwood led the operation at the Zexthari homeworld. Her ships emerged from FTL drive not in attack formation, but in a perfect grid pattern that demonstrated both their technological superiority and their restraint. We could destroy your orbital defenses with a single command, she transmitted to the Zexthari High Command. The environmental systems we helped design, the communication networks we helped maintain, all can be shut down remotely. But that's not who we choose to be. The humans' true technological advancement became apparent as they systematically disabled the Zexthari Empire's military capabilities. Their ships moved with impossible precision, using drive systems that had been disguised as inefficient engines. Their weapons weren't the crude projectiles they claimed to rely on, but sophisticated systems that could target specific systems while leaving crews unharmed. Your society depends on infrastructure we helped build. Admiral Sterling continued in the council chamber. Your trade routes follow patterns we helped establish. Your communication networks use protocols we helped develop. We didn't do this for dominance. We did it to ensure peace. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as humans demonstrated their true capabilities. Space stations previously thought primitive revealed themselves to be advanced monitoring posts. Mining operations turned out to be military production facilities. Even their medical technologies, freely shared across the galaxy, had given them intimate knowledge of every species' biology. Dr. Isabella Rivera, head of human medical sciences, stood before the council. Every cure we developed, every treatment we shared. They were genuine. Our desire to help was real. But knowledge goes both ways. We now understand every species' strengths and weaknesses, not because we studied you as enemies, but because you trusted us to heal you. The Zexthari Empire's military might, built over centuries, was neutralized in less than 3 days. Not through violence, but through the careful application of systems and protocols they themselves had approved and implemented. This is not an act of war, Ambassador Kane declared to the galaxy. This is a demonstration of what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. We could have conquered. We chose to trade. We could have destroyed. We chose to build. Remember this moment, not as the day humanity showed its strength, but as the day we proved our commitment to peace was a choice, not a necessity. The message was clear. Humanity's patience and cooperation had been voluntary. Their acceptance of restrictions had been strategic. Their seeming submission had been calculation. And now, with their true capabilities revealed, the galaxy faced a choice: accept humans as equals, or face the consequences of their cold, calculated fury. A new balance. In the aftermath of what became known as the Revelation Week, the galaxy entered a new era. The Galactic Council chamber, once filled with casual dismissal of humanity, now hummed with a different energy as High Counselor Vezra addressed the assembled species. We mistook technological restraint for technological inability. She admitted, her crystalline form pulsing with humility. We mistook diplomatic patience for subservience. Today, we correct these errors. The new accords recognized humanity's full status in the galactic community. The Zexathari Empire, its military capabilities neutralized, underwent radical political reform. Supreme Commander Daxler faced trial for war crimes, judged not by humans, but by a galactic tribunal. Admiral Sterling's presentation to the Council revealed the full scope of human advancement. Their seemingly primitive chemical rockets had been a carefully maintained facade. Their real ships used drive systems that could navigate the most dangerous regions of space. Their medical technology, freely shared, was only the surface of their understanding of xenobiology. We chose cooperation, he explained, because our history taught us the cost of conflict. Earth's wars forced us to advance rapidly, but they also taught us the value of peace. When we reached the stars, we decided to be better than our past. The human colonies, revealed as advanced military and research installations, became centers of open technological exchange. The harsh environments that were meant to limit humanity had instead driven them to perfect environmental adaptation technologies. These two, they shared freely. Dr. Rivera established the Galactic Medical Exchange. Our strength comes from diversity, from challenging environments, from overcoming obstacles. We want to help others find their strength too. The revelation of humanity's true nature sparked fear in some quarters, but their actions in the aftermath spoke louder. They didn't seek revenge or reparations. Instead, they offered partnerships. The same humans who had been relegated to dangerous manual labor now openly shared their expertise in environmental adaptation, showing other species how to thrive in conditions they had thought impossible. Ambassador Kane's final address to the Council became known as the Deathworld Doctrine. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day. It taught us to be strong, to be adaptable, and most importantly, to help each other survive. We bring these lessons to the galaxy not as a threat, but as a promise. The promise that together we can overcome any challenge. The humans' hidden network of advanced technology, rather than being used for dominance, became the foundation for a new era of galactic cooperation. Their fortified colonies transformed into joint research centers. Their military installations became peacekeeping bases, staffed by mixed-species crews. Remember, Admiral Sterling concluded in his historic speech, humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, our adaptability, or even our military capability. It's our capacity to choose peace, even when we're capable of war. To help others, even when we've been wronged. To build rather than destroy. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The species from the Deathworld hadn't needed to prove their strength through violence. Their cold fury, revealed but never fully unleashed, had demonstrated something far more powerful, the ability to hold power without being corrupted by it. And so began a new chapter in galactic history, where the smiling Deathworlders were finally seen for what they truly were, not primitive survivors to be pitied, not threats to be contained, but allies who had chosen cooperation over conquest every single day.